Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Snake Rattle and Roll, brought to us by Rare. Snake Rattle and Roll is a pretty unique game for the NES. You control either the Snake Rattle or the Snake Roll, or both at the same time, and you must journey through the levels while eating up some pellets known as Nibbly Pibblies, and I'm not making that name up, in order to grow your tail long enough in order to activate a weight so that the door will open and you can make it to the next level. The game has some extreme elements of platforming as well as some puzzle solving that you may need to use in order to find the best strategies and ways to complete each stage. So here we go with Snake Rattle and Roll for the NES. There really is no storyline in Snake Rattle and Roll. Our goal is really just to eat enough so that we can make it to the next stage, and try to do our best to avoid all the enemies and different obstacles. As you can see, the world is kind of an isometric view on the game. And now the enemies in games, a lot of them you can actually defeat by either jumping on top of them like a classic platformer, or by slashing them with your tongue. Throughout the game, you can grab a few extra items around to increase your time, which you can see you have a certain amount of time to complete a stage at the bottom, as well as grab tongue extensions to make your tongue longer. At this spot in the game, this is our first opportunity to really eat a lot of these pellets, or Nibbly Pibblies as they're known in the game. While you'll be able to find certain amounts of these pellets underneath different types of obstacles in the game, you have those big, giant cannon-like things which will keep launching out the items so that you can keep eating them up. Once you've eaten enough, and your tail has grown long enough, you'll see that the end of it will start flashing. This signifies that you have enough so that when you jump on the weight, it'll hit the bell at the top and open up the door. In the first two levels, be careful not to jump into the water or stay in there for too long, as there will be a creature in there which will come out and try to grab you, and it will be an instant death. Getting used to the controls in this isometric view can take a little bit of time in the game, and I highly recommend using the first two levels to really get used to it, because the levels get a lot harder as we go on. As far as your health goes in the game, when you just have the snake head itself, you'll instantly die when getting hit. However, with each piece of your tail that you grow longer, you can lose a piece of it every time you get hit and still live. However, there are some enemies, like the giant foot enemies, which are pretty much the main type of enemy in the game. If they squash you, it's an instant death, and you end up losing all your pellets and losing life as well. One of the other big dangers in the game is actually falling and platforming around. If you try to jump from too high of a distance to a lower platform, you may end up losing a life instantly and your snake will fall off screen. I kind of equate it similarly to the classic Marble Madness. Level 3 is where the game starts to pick up in its difficulty. We start off by dropping down, and there's a couple of waterfalls, and be very careful because the water will push you very quickly off the edge. In this level, the pellets that we have to grab are actually little pellets with legs, as they try to run away quickly. These pellets are extremely annoying to catch, so as soon as they hit the ground with their legs, immediately throw out your tongue and try to grab them. After grabbing some pellets, drop down here, taking out the trap, and then be sure to do your absolute best to avoid that arrow icon. If you end up grabbing it, what happens is your controls get completely reversed, and it can be really tricky to try to figure out what you need to press so you don't end up falling off an edge and you can make your jumps. Up here is our best opportunity to grab the rest of the pellets that we need in order to increase our tail length. Just like the other cannons in the game, these ones can also shoot out bombs, so you must be very careful that you don't end up accidentally grabbing a bomb. Then, go through the water quickly and grab the tongue extension if you need it, hit the scale, and jump up across the waterfall in order to complete level 3. At the beginning of stage number 4, be careful and make a corner jump in order to jump up here, and you end up getting another one of those clockwork keys. They make your character go a lot faster, so be very careful with these, because if you're not used to it, you may end up going too fast, and end up messing up jumps or running into enemies. The pellets in this level, when they jump up into the air and hit the ground, they squash. Your goal here is after they squash on the ground, they'll then form back again as they jump up into the air, and that's your opportunity to grab them as soon as they come off the ground. When we get up here, watch out for the exploding blob in the center and take it out with your tongue after it explodes or right before it explodes. Then, be careful of bombs and try to grab as many of the pellets as you can. The different colored pellets in the game indicate a different amount of length that each pellet will give you. I think purple gives you the least amount while yellow gives you the best, but I could be wrong. After growing your tail long enough, grab the diamond and continue on. The diamonds give you invincibility as well as invisibility for a short period of time. This will allow us to get past the exploding block and get over past the waterfall to this side. Make careful jumps up here, and then in the openings, right next to the spikes, you'll see these large razors come out of the ground and slide across. Be very careful when making your jumps across those. Get to the top platform and then jump up to the waterfall, working your way over and watching out for the very large anvils that'll try to hit you while they're falling from the ceiling. This can be tough, but if you can avoid them, you can get over to the scale, hit it, ring the bell, and then run back across very quickly and get through the door before getting squashed. If you do get squashed though, you will have to go all the way back down the mountain in order to get back to the cannon and regrow your tail. At the beginning of stage number 5, walk to the edge of the platform, then drop down to the magic carpet. Be careful not to fall off of that platform or you will lose a life. Then, jump on the magic carpet or just walk yourself across a large amount of waterfall in order to get to the opposite side. Stand on the third block down from the top in order to jump straight forward into the other magic carpet so you can land on it and not land in the spikes. When you get over here, use the cannon in order to catch as many of the pellets as you can. These pellets fly around, but eventually will soar down to the ground, in which case you'll have an opening to actually lap them up with your tongue. Like I had mentioned before, you don't want to really grab those arrows because they make your controls go reverse. However, this is one of those cases where we're pretty much going to have to grab it in order to get to the magic carpet easily. Trying to make the jump over it will sometimes cause you to miss, in which case you may end up dying that way. If you have a full tail, ignore the cannon and then jump to the magic carpet and get over to the cliff side. Walk across the cliff and be careful of the two pushers that will come out of the walls, as you can see represented by the blue squares. Just be sure to jump over them to avoid getting pushed down. Be careful of the giant foot, jump up, ring the bell, and then ride up the magic carpet to the next platform. On the magic carpet that you get on top of the spikes here, as you ride across, after it stops, it will start flashing and disappear for a second. Just make a jump as soon as it stops and you'll be able to land directly back on it as it reappears. Get over to the opposite side and you can enter the door to move on to stage 6. Level 6 starts out with a lot of waterfalls to jump over, so make some short little jumps across so you don't jump on the water itself. It will probably instantly knock you off and into the giant spikes below. Just ignore the tongue extension on the next waterfall unless you really want to be brave and try to make that jump and actually not fall off the water into the pit. Jump up here and cling against the wall with the spikes and work your way up across the bells and you won't actually have to deal with them. Jump across the waterfall here, grab the tongue extension, then make the longest jump you can across the big waterfall so you can make it across to the next section. Watch out for the blue squares on the walls, of course, they will knock you down to a previous section. During this segment, it can be really tricky. Move across the platforms as quickly as you possibly can, watching out for the large bells that try to squash you. It may be worth it just to fall down to a previous platform if a bell is coming directly your way. When you make it to the top, wait a few seconds for a piece of fruit to come out of the door instead of a bell. Grab the fruit, then work your way back up to the waterfall above. You can then use A and B buttons alternatively in order to climb the waterfall. You must have the fruit in order to do this and continue the stage. Once you make it to the top, watch out for the large foot, then make your way over to the left, grabbing the large snake head icon, which will give you some more points. Then, work your way across the bottom area. Keep working your way over and watch out for the large foot that will probably be ahead of you. Thankfully, it won't be too much trouble until it makes a turnaround, in which case you'll have to jump over to avoid it. Make it across another waterfall, but just be very careful on your drop down off the edge so that you can hold and hug the wall while falling in order to make it through the door. As we begin the next level, there's lots of spikes coming out of the ground. When you're moving across to the next platforms, if you move quickly enough as the spikes come out, you'll be able to avoid them. Watch out for the gold spikes, and then you'll have to wait a little bit more for some more of the silver spikes to pop out, so you can make it across the giant waterfall next. For the next segment, I usually like to hug the upper wall, then move as quickly as I possibly can to do my best to avoiding the spikes as I move over. At the corner, there's a gold spike which I always end up having to get hit by in order to get to the upper platform. Move slowly and kind of do some stutter steps to avoid the giant marble rocks that will fall down from the ceiling and try to squash you. If you move like a stutter step, you should be able to get in between both of them and then jump over the far one as it rolls past. In the next segment, watch out for the gold spike. I usually like to take this one out with my tongue, and then you have to use the geysers in order to get your way up to the next platform, and this can be a little bit tricky and take some time. Move quickly up the next waterfall, or take out one of the spikes with your tongue if you can. And then when you get up above, try to do your best to get the geyser to push you upwards. Just be sure not to let go of your controls too long so you end up flying off the waterfall. It can be a little bit tricky and sometimes take a while for one of those geysers finally to help you out and get you up to the next platform. As soon as you get up though, there will be another gold spike, so be careful. Up here, take out this spike before getting your way over to the edge so you can make it up to the next platform by using the geyser. Thankfully, we only need one more geyser in order to get us up to the far corner. You're not going to be able to make that jump on your own, so you will have to use that geyser in order to get to the bottom step in the right corner. Once up there, just avoid the Bigfoot and run through the door. As you may have noticed, the last two stages we didn't have to collect pellets in order to get past. In this level that we're in now, we will have to collect pellets, but it doesn't really matter the length of our tongue. We just have to collect a certain amount of them in order for the door to open. In this stage, there's fish pellets that swim around, and you actually have free-flowing movement while underneath the water. Nothing can really hurt you under here, so just be careful and keep swimming around and try to grab as many of the pellets as you possibly can. After you grab a certain amount of them, the door will open in the left side. After the door opens up and you go through, you'll pop out of another piece of water, in which case you can drop right into the next section and have another area where we're going to have to be eating the fish pellets in order to get another door to open up. Since there really aren't too much threats in this level, the only real concern is the time limit below. Just keep your eye on the clock as you try to eat as many of these fish as you possibly can. When you jump out of the next set of water, run across the platform and be sure to grab the stopwatch in the corner to give yourself some extra time. Then jump in the water and continue the process of eating fish. Yes, this level is a little bit monotonous and can be pretty boring overall. However, the next stages after this are really tough, so it gives you a nice little break before the game really turns up the difficulty. In the next set, there still isn't any real dangers other than there is some spikes that you have to deal with across the walls. However, they really shouldn't be too much in the way, and you should have an easy time still eating up all the fish. After we finally get done eating all the fish underwater in this section and the door opens up, we are at the end of the stage and all you have to do is go through the door to complete the level. In the next stage, they really start ramping up the difficulty as the whole level is filled with ice. You're going to be slip sliding all across, so you're going to have a lot of precision movement in order to make it past this one. Slide down the ice and hug the wall as much as you can, and when you get to the very bottom, be sure to make a quick jump so you can make it up and start climbing up the large mountain. Be careful of enemies and slowly move across the ice to this area, then move your way slowly up, and as you move up, large rocks will start falling towards you. Do your best to either ride underneath of them or jump over them as they land in order to get up to the next section. Run down the large slope, grab the item in the corner, and then jump over to the slopes. Over here there's a hole in the wall which is going to be our only area to grab pellets in this part. So be sure to fill your tail all the way up, and if you need to, take out the large Bigfoot monster that keeps running around the small center of the area. The pellets in this area have propellers on them that will come out of the top of them and start flying around the room, and they can be really tricky to grab at that point. Thankfully, sometimes they will fly low enough so you can actually grab them with your tongue. Once your tail is long enough, ring the bell and then start climbing up the slope above. Take your time and you'll have to have a lot of precision to get up, and watch out for the bubble when you make it about near the top. You now are going to have to jump on the slope and then start changing direction in order to get up to the next set of slopes. Grab the clock to increase your time and then watch out for the boulder and slide downwards. Don't slide too fast or you'll end up flying off the bottom, and you're going to have to jump right above you to the next set. Start working your way up here, and once again when you get near the top you'll have another bubble to deal with. Just deal with it the same way you dealt with the one before. When you make it to the top, watch out for another large boulder, then jump across to the other section, climb up slowly and take your time to eventually reach the door and complete stage number 9. Stage number 10 is the final real platforming level of the game, as the final stage is actually just a boss battle. And just like the previous stage, this one is once again full of ice. Run across the top part, watching out for the moving ice cube, then drop down and slide slightly, and then hug the spike wall above, watching out for the bubble, and move your way slowly over to the left. Repeat the process as you move down farther, watching out for another large ice cube. On this segment, watch out for the boulder by jumping over it or moving very quickly so that it doesn't land on you, and be sure to grab the item at the end and slide down to this area where we can grab some pellets. Once again, there is a Bigfoot monster in the way if you want to take that out while grabbing the pellets. Once you finally have enough pellets, drop down to the wall below, then move your way slowly across and hit the bell. You'll then have to climb your way back up. Be sure to dodge the Bigfoot again and then slide across the other side, making a long jump so you can make it to the platform above. Once up here, you'll have to make a little bit of tricky jumps and just slowly work your way upwards. Jump over the large spikes and then move across and wait for the boulder to come down, or once again jump over it as it rolls down the hill and continue up the mountain. You'll have to do this a couple of times as we make our way up. Be sure to be as close to the wall as possible before making your jump over the spikes. This way you should be able to make it just far enough and won't be down far enough so that when you land on the next platform, you'll be able to slide your way back upwards and hug a wall. On this segment, hug the wall above and just keep moving very, very slowly, inching your way across while jumping over the boulder that moves very fast along the edge. Once you make it to the end, jump up and be very careful with your jumps so you don't over-jump over into the gap. Then, start working your way upwards. This is extremely difficult and extremely tricky, but take your time slowly and make your way upwards to the very top. Once all the way up, get yourself ready before you make a very long jump into the door over to the right. Once you've entered, you've completed stage 10, and now we have only one level left. The final stage is just a boss battle against a blue version of the Bigfoot. When you get close to it, it comes to life and starts running around the room. You don't have any pellets to eat, so you only have 2 hits to take from the rocks falling around as well as running into the foot. In order to defeat it, you have to hit it a certain amount of times before it has a chance to heal itself. Every time it jumps away from you and you stop attacking it for just a couple of seconds, it replenishes its full health. So, if you don't have a turbo button, this can be really tough, and you'll have to keep mashing the button like I am in order to get enough tongue lashes in to finally destroy this beast. Just take your time and follow along the foot's pattern as it moves the same pattern every time it circles around the large square. Once you finally deliver enough hits to it, the flag will plant itself in the ground and a spaceship will lower itself. Enter the spaceship to complete the game. Not much of an ending, but they do tell us that there would be a sequel called Snakes in Space. However, unfortunately, Rare never actually made that particular sequel, but they did end up making another sequel to Snake Rattle and Roll for the Game Boy. The Game Boy game was entitled Sneaky Snakes, and you actually had a little bit of a story where you actually had to save a female snake named Sonia. And with that, that wraps up another edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.